Like a lot of other Fire Emblem fans, I was quite disappointed with some of the latest games, and particularly the 14th entry in the franchise. After the amazing revival of the series with Fire Emblem Awakening, it seemed that Intelligent Systems decided for their next entry they would double down on the most controversial parts of the previous game. Enter Fire Emblem Fates. Now making it a game containing characters with extremely questionable costumes, children mechanics that make no sense from relating to the storyline, and petting mini-games. Well, at least for the Japanese players. In my own, and a lot of others' opinions, none of this stuff should have been in a Fire Emblem game. Hell, none of this stuff should have been in a strategy game, period. Or does it? Let me take you back to the long-forgotten year of 2010, the same year this masterpiece came out. The West got its first taste of a Japanese strategy game that took a very strange approach to the genre. From a company that makes great games but only seems to be known for screwing up Sonic, we got a game that merged two genres that nobody thought would be humanly possible, when we got a strategy game crossed with a dating simulator. Welcome to Sakura Wars 5, So Long My Love. The Sakura Wars series development goes back to the late 90s, originally debuting on the Sega Saturn. It takes place in a fictionalized steampunk 1920s and is set in giant metropolises around the world, with the first, second and fourth games taking place in Tokyo, the third game taking place in Paris, and the fifth game, which is the one I'll be covering here, is set in the good old Big Apple, aka New York. The story centers around a special task force of steam-powered mechs known as Stars, which are piloted by predominantly female pilots who fight demons who are out to cause chaos in the large metropolises of the world. The fifth game's story follows Shinjiro Taiga as he moves to New York from his homeland of Japan to take command of the newly formed Star Division, a military organization tasked with fighting demons. Upon his arrival, he is immediately overwhelmed with all the commotion and cultures happening in such a small area. After being caught up in a robbery, Shinji is rescued by a lady named Ratchet Altair, who turns out to be the captain of the Star Division. She takes Shinjiro to their base of operations, the Little Lip Theatre, a large concert hall located at Times Square, where he meets the members of the Star Division. Now, something you need to understand about the main characters of the Sakura Wars series is the fact that they are all performers. This is because the action of performing helps improve the character's pneuma, or spirit energy, which they use to pilot the stars, the mech thingies. Weird, yes, I know, but remember, this is a game that's trying to merge a dating sim with a strategy game. The first of the division members you meet is Gemini Sunrise, a cowgirl samurai from Texas. Yes, it apparently we had otakus even back in the 1920s. She is on a quest to find the man who killed her master. She is initially the cleaner for the theatre, but later joins the Star Division as a full-fledged member. The second member is Sharon Archer, a lawyer from Harlem who believes in the law above all else. The third member is Subaru Kujo, a fellow Japanese woman who is committed to absolute perfection in her actions, whether it be dressing, acting, or battle. The fourth member is Rosita Aries, a gunslinging bounty hunter from Mexico who is obsessed with food and never failing to live up to others' expectations. And the final member is Diana Caprice, a frail medical practitioner who struggles with the fact that she can see the fate of all living creatures who are soon doomed to die. Initially, the members of the Star Division don't trust Shinji, but over time they come to respect and even admire him. He does this by optional verbal and occasionally physical responses to situations that arise through the game. This is very similar to most BioWare RPGs like Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect trilogy. For a majority of the game, you'll find yourself going around New York, talking with members of the Star Division, as well as other New Yorkers, as you try to improve your reputation. This is important, as this reputation will affect how well you and your comrades work in battle. Yes, I said battle. Shortly after Shinji arrives, New York finds itself under attack by a bunch of demons, who along with causing chaos in the streets of New York, are secretly trying to summon their lord back from the afterlife to conquer the world and plunge it into darkness. The game is split into 8 chapters, with the first being an introductory chapter, the next 5 being dedicated to each member of the group, and the last 2 being part of the finale. In most of these chapters, you'll experience a series of events occurring at the theatre as well as around New York, where as stated earlier, the choices you make can affect your relationship with the other characters. Near the end of each chapter, a battle will occur between your team of stars, the mechs I talked about at the start, and one of the Demon Lord generals and their minions, and one of New York's famous sights, such as Wall Street, Central Park, and the Statue of Liberty. When in battle, each character and enemy will be given a turn number based on their speed, which will dictate when they can move. All units have a set amount of steam, as this is technically a steampunk, which they can use to move, attack, or do specials. This means if you decide you want to move, this will cost you in the amount of attacks you can make. By the way, if this gameplay looks familiar, it's because the mechanics have been used by other games, most notably Valkyria Chronicles, which was developed with help from several of the people that made this game. Battles normally start out on the ground, but will often take to the skies, as the stars also have an aerial mode. The gameplay is pretty much the same here as it is on the ground, where you now move around an invisible cylinder as opposed to flat along the ground. Most battles involve taking out the enemy units, but will often have other objectives, such as key units which need to be taken out, or targets which need protecting. As stated earlier, by improving your relationship with the other characters, it will improve how they function in battle, getting stronger attacks as well as more steam to move around, thus incentivizing making the right choices in the conversation sections of the game. Near the end of the game, you will eventually be pushed into choosing one of the 5 girls in your team to be that, quote, special one. I can't say wife because one of the members is underage. This girl and yourself will then become the main focal point of the final act of the game, as you take on the Demon Lord himself. Altogether, despite being a weird mashup of 2 seemingly unrelated genres, Sakura Wars nails it. Having the player interact directly with the other characters actually helps you learn about their preferences and personalities on a level most other games can't reach. And when you think about it, this style of game is not much different from a lot of other RPGs with stat effect and dialogue choices, such as the BioWare RPGs I talked about earlier. It's a shame the 5th game is the only game in the series to be released in the West, and the series went on ice after this game, with only a few spin-offs coming out, all in Japan no less. However, hope is on the horizon, with Sega announcing a new game in the works. Nothing much is known about this game currently, but whatever it is, it appears to be big. Whether it's Sakura Wars 6, a new spin-off, or a series reboot is not yet known, nor is it known whether or not this game will come to the West. But if Fire Emblem has taught us anything, there is potentially a big market here, as long as it gets the awareness it deserves, and that's why I'm making this video, to help spur on support for this unknown gem of a game that never truly got to see success in the West. Sakura Wars 5 can be found on the PS2 and Wii, 2 of the most popular consoles I might say, for as cheap as $30. And I would highly recommend picking it up if you're a fan of the modern Fire Emblem games. And hopefully, if we're lucky, we might see a new one coming out very soon.